I remember this young lady, she had just gotten vaccinated. She's African American, and she goes home and she talks to her grandmother. Grandma, you need to be vaccinated. Grandma says, absolutely not. I don't trust the healthcare system. I don't trust any of these people. I'm not going to get vaccinated. The young lady says, well, Mom, the lady who vaccinated me is African American. She says, well, in that case, take me, I want to get vaccinated. The message is important, but so is the messenger.
Data and science and study have shown that African American individuals are much less likely to be enrolled into a clinical trial. So the EQB Med initiative is going to address this major and critical problem in our community.
EQB Med initiative positions us at Texas Southern University to actually have access to innovative and breakthrough clinical studies. We do a lot of work to increase awareness about clinical research participation, but without an opportunity to actually open access for individuals to participate and to build trust in clinical trial process, we are very limited.
Pharmacy is a very important team in communication with the community. And we are not only have a PharmD program, we also have a PhD program. With that, we have more outreach to the community.
We are the #1 producers of African American pharmacists in the state of Texas. Pharmacists are a significant part of the healthcare team. They're able to immunize patients. They're able to help them in a variety of health settings per se.
TSU had the RCMI support back in 1980s, especially in terms of research infrastructure. So the student and scientists can conduct most cutting edge of research, especially in the area of drug discovery and development.
In 2024, the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences celebrated its existence of over 70 years. We lead a lot of initiatives advancing health equity, training community health workers, providing continuing education for community health workers, as well as for our pharmacy and health administration students.
In this initiative, we are going to partner with UTMB, Yale University, and Morehouse School of Medicine. We will be able to gain more experience and resources and guidance on how to recruit for clinical trial and how to conduct clinical trials.
So this clinical research initiative under the EQB Med funding mechanism allows us not just to provide opportunities for clinical trial participation for community members, but it creates a platform for us to train the next generation of pharmacists that will be culturally competent, that will have an high level of awareness of engaging with community members to promote the concept of diversity and equal representation in clinical research participation. Hello, my name is Veronica Ajawale Mwema. I am a professor of pharmacy practice here at Texas Southern University, where I also have the privilege to serve as the Assistant Vice President for Clinical Translational Research and Community Engagement. I am the founding director for the TSU Health Mobile Unit Initiative, and I am very excited to share this initiative with you. The TSU Mobile Health Unit is a 40-foot, fully equipped, wheelchair-accessible, telehealth-ready mobile unit with a screening mammogram room, clinical services room, and a community engagement room. There is an expandable awning on both sides of the TSU Mobile Health Unit with a large screen outdoor TV on the outside panel for community education. This allows us to engage with community members outdoors while also providing various clinical services inside the unit. The back panel of our mobile unit allows us to highlight our different programs and sponsors. We are extremely delighted to share that the TSU Mobile Health Unit has capacity to bring cancer screening and health services directly to you in the community.
The community engagement room in our mobile health unit provides a private space for patient check-in as well as community engagement activities. This room also features a TV screen that allows our community members to view educational programs while waiting to receive clinical services. Our wheelchair-accessible mammogram suite is equipped with a state-of-the-art mammogram equipment, allowing us to offer high-quality 3D screening mammograms in the community.
Our state-of-the-art clinical service room on the unit allows us private spaces to provide clinical services and preventive health care services, including high blood pressure screening, hemoglobin A1C for diabetes, and cholesterol screening, as well as lab sample collections that can be stored in our hospital-grade refrigerators or freezers. The room is also telehealth ready, allowing us to connect several rural communities with clinical services seamlessly.
We can also engage with the community about different clinical research initiatives, including enrollment in our clinical research registry, evaluation for interventional or non-interventional studies, as well as educating the community about various clinical research programs.
This private space allows a community member to engage with a clinical pharmacist, answering medication-related questions and providing the needed support to improve health outcomes.
The TSU Mobile Health Unit initiative also positions TSU to lead the way in civic engagement, research, and training of future healthcare professionals and social support staff who have a deep understanding of the community and a commitment to advancing health outcomes in the community.
This is TSU Mobile Health Units, bringing cancer screening and health services to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's right at the top of the hour, 1 minute past 12 noon, and I want to just thank everybody for joining us in today's webinar event centered on nutrition. So just wanted to give a brief highlight about our center, and we are the Center for Biomedical and Health Research at Texas Southern University is the one bringing up this event, is hosting this event under the grant we received from NIH. And through this award, TSU will continue to play a key role in using a multi-pronged approach to improve health outcomes with advanced biomedical innovations and community engagement. And the principal investigators for this center and for this under this grant are Senior Associate Vice President of Research and Innovation and Professor of Pharmacology, Dr. Esther Olaleye, and Dr. Huan Jie, who's the Professor of Pharmaceutics, as well as the Program Director for Health for Pharmaceutical Sciences. Under the Community Engagement Core, our director is Dr. Veronica Ajewole Muema, and we've got others also part of this Community Engagement Core, Dr. Miss Rosalia Guerrero. We've got Dr. Rodney Hunter, Dr. Maria Mejia, Mark Ibarra Garza, also a team member, Cassie Thompson, Sneha George, and Miss Edith Declan, who is our nurse practitioner under our clinical translational research as well as community engagement, and she will also be moderating the Q&A session of this webinar event. So our overall approach of community engagement is sort of threefold: health education and outreach, clinical research awareness, participation and retention, social mass and print media, and then also we are also giving out CEs and certification programs to our community health workers, providing cultural competency training, as well as community engaged research training. Also, we are also sending out surveys to our community members to hear what they have to say regarding various issues, as well as focus groups and community engagement studios. Now, we wanted to just highlight, we recently launched in May of this year, our innovative community-focused clinical research program. And pretty much it is has to do with TSU establishing a clinical research registry. And this is just a type of data repository where participants are enrolled in a database or registry to collect and store detailed information over a specified period of time. Now, the end goal of this is to establish a comprehensive and diverse database of potential clinical research participants here at TSU, Clinical Research and Translational Sciences area. Now, we seek to just recruit individuals with a wide spectrum of medical conditions, both past and present, as well as, healthy volunteers, ensuring a broad pool of participants to match the diverse needs of future studies. And the end goal of this is to make everyone as diverse as we are a part of clinical research, so that when drugs are being churned out, they can actually apply to every one of us. Want to also highlight our TSU mobile health unit. As you guys may have seen in the previous video, we are glad to say that it is here in Houston, and it's being stored right now, and we are hoping to deploy it out into the community once we've got enough funding to meet the needs of our various communities. What the goal is to provide primary care, preventative care services, as well as mammogram screening, and even it's telehealth ready to provide telehealth services, as well as community engagement events. Now, thank you once again for joining us. To our online attendees, please post your questions in the Q&A box. The survey link will also be posted. Now, you can also scan the QR code here to go into our link tree and get the survey, get your attendance signing, and any other thing you might want to look at. Now, we're also providing free credit hours to our community health workers, but please, you have to complete the survey and the evaluation to receive credits. Credits for this will be sent out to you within the next 2 weeks of today. We're also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, so please, we invite you to share this to as many people as you believe will benefit from this. Stay connected by following us on social media and subscribe as well to our mailing list and text platform. Thank you to our partner, Harris County Public Health, who also graciously, volunteered their registered dietitian to help in this portion, to present this portion about nutrition. Now, Harris County's Public Health Nutrition and Physical Activity Division is actually committed to empowering and teaching patients, parents, caregivers, kids, and communities ways to eat healthier, to increase their physical activity, and to limit screen time to help maintain a healthy weight. Harris County Public Health also utilizes science-based curriculums to provide optimal education to every age group. This program also provides nutrition education, hence, of course, this initiative. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce our speaker for today's event, and she is Esmeralda Ogura, and she's, like I mentioned, a registered dietitian and supervisor of the Nutrition and Physical Activity Program of Harris County Public Health. She began her career at the Houston Food Bank, discovering ways to address food insecurity and teach community members to use their budgets to nourish themselves and their families. In her current role, she supervises a team of registered dietitians and health educators that provide engaging and informative nutrition and physical activity classes to Harris County residents. As a new mom, Esmeralda now understands the importance of making quick and easy lifestyle changes that don't cause a lot of mental load or stress. Her mission is to empower community members to make healthier and sustainable changes to improve their health long term. When she's not working, you can find her enjoying time with her family at a local park. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and please, Ms. Ogura, you can go ahead and take over. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining. Let me just go ahead and pull up my presentation. Actually, do you have the presentation pulled up? Could you share it if you don't mind?
Sure. Yes, I can do that. Give me 1 minute and I'll take this back.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Can you see it now?
It's still on the speaker introduction.
Okay.
Yes, perfect. Alrighty, well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Here are our objectives. We're going to review ways that our body utilizes food as nourishment. We're going to identify the characteristics of type 2 diabetes, as well as discuss healthy eating and other tips to improve nutrition. We're also going to identify lifestyle changes that decrease the risk for developing type 2 diabetes. So we have a lot to cover. Next slide. And why are we here today? The main reason is because TSU and Harris County Public Health care about our communities, and we know that diabetes is a disease that affects many individuals in the county. And November is Diabetes Awareness Month, so we just wanted to take this time to spread awareness of diabetes and encourage and empower each of you to take health into your own hands. Next slide. And the reason for this, like I mentioned, is because diabetes does affect about 11.6% of Americans. And the CDC estimates that 90 to 95% of cases of diabetes seen are diagnosed type 2 diabetes. And so what is diabetes? This is just a small definition we're going to dive in and discuss in more detail. But in general, diabetes is a condition that affects how the body turns food into energy. And diabetes happens when the body doesn't make enough insulin or it can't use it as well as it should. And like I mentioned, we're going into more detail. So first, to begin our journey, I just wanted to give everyone a general understanding of how food gets broken down into the body. And so, as we know, nutrition is super important for all of our body processes, for our functions, for energy. And so this is where we'll get started today. Next slide. Okay, so the way that we talk about food and nutrition in our classes is by dividing them into food groups. As you can see, there's an example of a healthy eating plate on the left, and this is the Harvard plate adaptation of the My Plate created by the USDA and the dietary guidelines. So on the left, the main difference is that it includes healthy oils and water instead of dairy on the right. And so food can be classified based on what food group it belongs to. And each food group shares similarities in terms of nutrient composition or the way that type of food is grown and manufactured. Next slide. And so that is kind of high level food groups. Now in digestion, food is broken down into 6 types of nutrients. So depending on what food you're eating, depending on what meal you're eating, it could get broken down into carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamins, minerals, and water. And so today we'll be focusing on carbohydrates because that is the main nutrient that affects our blood glucose, which we'll discuss more. And so in the next slide, you will see there are different sources of carbohydrates. In this image are a few spaghetti noodles, banana, apples, potatoes, oranges, bread, even some of our legumes and beans contain carbohydrates. And so, digestion begins at the mouth, food goes down into our digestive system. From there, carbohydrates specifically get broken down into sugar or glucose, and that gets absorbed from our intestines into the blood. Next slide. So then we have all this glucose or sugar in the blood. It's sitting there ready to be moved from the blood into our cells. And this is important because in the cells is where we make our energy. And glucose specifically is one of our major sources of energy for everyone. But it has to be, like I mentioned, moved from the blood into the cell. How does it get from the blood into the cell? Is by insulin. So insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas, and insulin acts as a key that opens the channel that allows glucose to move from the blood into the cell. So insulin is the key that unlocks that channel. Glucose moves, then it's able to move freely from the blood into the cell. And this means that the glucose overall concentration in the blood can then decrease and normalize at a level within a normal range. And so how is this affected when someone has diabetes? There are 2 different ways. One is insulin deficiency. So this can happen when the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin. And so glucose cannot enter the cell, and glucose kind of stays in the blood, leading to those high levels of glucose in the blood or high A1C. Another way is insulin resistance, which is where the insulin is being produced, it's being released after meals, but the lock is malfunctioning. So you can see in this example that there are keys that are trying to unlock the channels of the cell, but for some reason they aren't being effective in opening those channels and allowing that glucose to move. So then in both of these scenarios, when someone has diabetes, pre-diabetes, then the glucose stays in the blood, and then we see elevated levels of blood glucose. And so this is what diabetes is. So those were just 2 different pathways. When someone is diagnosed with diabetes or prediabetes, they might have a mixture of the 2. They might have insulin deficiency, and also where the key or the insulin is not unlocking the cells correctly for different reasons. And so this elevated blood glucose over extended period of time is when someone might be diagnosed with diabetes. And there are a few different types of diabetes. So today we will be discussing, preventative measures of prediabetes and type 2. But I want to begin at the bottom right where it says type 1 diabetes. This one is a little bit different because it's an autoimmune disease. And so this is where the pancreas is being under attack. So then it doesn't have the ability to produce insulin on its own. This is typically diagnosed in childhood because it is an autoimmune disease, and this person will be insulin dependent for the rest of their lives. In terms of prediabetes, this is a period right before developing type 2. This is when high blood glucose is seen, but no other symptoms are present. So this can be you're going to a checkup at the doctor and they see that the blood glucose levels are high. They might talk to you about you being pre-diabetic. If prediabetes is not controlled or there's no intervention, then it could be diagnosed into type 2 diabetes. And so this is the inability to produce enough of or to correctly use insulin. And this is commonly diagnosed in adulthood. However, we are seeing more and more cases of diagnosing happening earlier. And then gestational diabetes is when there is elevated blood sugar during pregnancy. And this is important to note that it increases the risk of developing type 2 diabetes in the future. So now that we know how food is digested and absorbed, and we know that there are different types of diabetes and kind of what they are, I wanted for us to discuss how we can prevent type 2 diabetes. And so the first step is knowing your own personal risks, because everyone's risk will be different. We all come from different backgrounds, lifestyles, and we have different built environments. So there are two types of risk factors to assess. The first being modifiable. So these are things that we can change. And so this is obesity, high blood pressure, diet, physical inactivity, or smoking. And then risk factors that we have no say in, unfortunately, or fortunately, is age 45 years old and up, family history and genetics, and then race and ethnicity. So these are things that can't be changed. And then in the modifiable risk factors, we'll be focusing on lifestyle changes that pertain to obesity, high blood pressure, and diet for the sake of this webinar. So the anchor of nutrition is to create balanced meals. And in our nutrition classes, we use My Plate as a guide because it's visual, it's kind of easy to remember. And so all 5 food groups play a role in our health. Every single food group provides different nutrients, and usually they're specific to each food. For example, fruits provide some vitamins that grains don't provide. Maybe fruits provide some vitamins that dairy doesn't provide, and vice versa. So that's why we want to include all these different food groups in our meals every day if possible. Another recommendation is to make half your plate fruits and vegetables. And I know that fruits don't usually go with every single meal unless you like sweet and savory mixed together, which I do. But if you don't, then you can make half your plate vegetables. And this can be, leafy greens, it can be cooked vegetables, that's up to you. And then you want to make half your grains, which are things like our rice, our pastas, our breads, whole grains or whole wheat. And this is because it has more fiber and it has more of those healthy fats. And that will help balance the blood sugar in meals. When it comes to protein, the recommendation is to choose lean proteins or plant-based options. And with protein, variety is really key because, again, each one will provide different nutrients. And lastly, if you are going to consume dairy, choose low-fat or non-fat dairy products to manage the fat level in our diets. And though I mentioned some kind of foods to increase or decrease, but here are more specific. So foods to increase are non-starchy vegetables. These are things like peppers, mushrooms, tomato, broccoli. Our starchy vegetables that we want to be mindful of are our potatoes, corn, peas, and winter squash. So those are the 4 that we want to be mindful of, but the rest of them we can try to increase them for a healthy diet. We also want to increase fruits. And of course, not being, keeping in mind that my plate. So we want the fruits to be around a quarter of the plate whenever we do eat those. Again, mentioning lean proteins, including seafood such as fish for the healthy fats, whole grains, and with some other examples like quinoa, brown rice, or steel-cut oatmeal. And if you're going to choose a beverage, choosing water or unsweetened drinks. And then how can we make balanced meals possible? I think it starts at meal preparation. So meal planning at the beginning of the week will be my recommendation. This is something that we teach in our classes and I try to practice in my personal life. This will help us avoid buying prepackaged or fast foods. And these foods typically have more sodium or salt. They have more sugar. They're typically fried or have more oil added into them. And so whenever we meal plan, we can avoid buying these in a rush or on the go. We can also avoid skipping meals. Skipping meals is not advisable when it comes to managing blood sugar or trying to keep a steady blood sugar level as well as energy levels throughout the day. So you want to make sure that you're having, consistent meals and snacks so that you're not having those dips in energy and then eating larger meals that might spike blood sugar. And meal planning will also help you create those balanced meals because you will have to grocery shop and make sure that you even have those items to create a meal that is very nutritious. And so whenever you're seasoning foods, making sure that you're using herbs and spices without salt, and then you can add the salt near the end or even after you taste it, just kind of add it in. And if you are trying to decrease your salt, then you can start little by little. If you added a teaspoon to your dish, you can do a quarter teaspoon, then a half a teaspoon. So you can start with small changes and let your taste buds kind of get used to it. This will help you manage your blood pressure, which in turn will decrease the risk for diabetes. I also added to increase baked dishes because baking to me is a way that I can decrease fats and oils in my diet because I'm not having to saute in oil, I'm not having to fry in oil, and it can be used as a tool when you're low on time or resources. You can add a protein, veggies, and some potato, maybe toss them in a little bit of olive oil, season them, and throw them in the oven for a few minutes. And then you have dinner ready for tonight and maybe tomorrow. And so baked dishes to me is a great way that we can set ourselves up for success later on. And then again, to increase consumption of fish, lean meats, and plant proteins to vary our fats to get different nutrients and just to have that variety. Okay, and then going along with meal planning, I think snacks are really important too in terms of managing blood sugar and having sustained energy levels. Because whenever we have a low energy throughout the day, that typically means that we're also experiencing low blood sugar. And so those dips might cause us to overeat or eat really large meals. And if we didn't plan them in advance, we might have to buy convenience foods or fast foods, which are typically higher in sugars or carbohydrates and fats. And these foods will spike our blood sugar. So we kind of create like an up and down, like really high highs and really low lows in our blood sugar, which is something that we want to avoid. So if we have snacks, then we can have sustained energy throughout the day. And so whenever you are creating a healthy snack, I recommend at least 2 food groups in each snack. And this will help, again, create a balanced effect in the blood glucose. So you can choose fruit with some sort of dip or yogurt. You can include a whole grain option and then consider incorporating nuts, seeds, and lean proteins in snacks as well. And of course, reducing added sugar is really important for a healthy diet. Added sugars can be found in processed foods and sweetened drinks. They just provide little to no nutritional value except for sugars. And they're high in calories or energy, but then they don't provide that sustained energy that we're looking for. And most added sugar in diets comes from sweetened beverages. So if that is something that you gravitate towards, I would recommend finding an alternative if you can. Maybe if you're creating your own drinks at home, maybe just again limiting the quantity of sugar that you're adding. Try choosing a diet drink if you can't fully walk away from that sugar, but there are different options like teas or sparkling waters, and so that'll keep you hydrated as well. And some other healthy tips that I wanted to mention that also can lead to regulated blood sugar levels are stress management. When we're stressed, our cortisol levels increase, which can dysregulate blood sugar. So managing your stress is an important part of living a healthy lifestyle in general. So this can look like physical activity, can look like meditation or yoga, stretching, having quiet time, whatever that looks like for you, just making sure that you're incorporating it into your daily routine. Physical activity is also something that helps regulate blood sugar. The recommendation for physical activity is 150 minutes per week. So this can look like working out for 30 minutes, 5 days a week. It can be any sort of activity like cardiovascular activities such as walking, jogging, dancing, swimming. It can also include strength training such as body weight movements, so body weight squats, push-ups, or lifting weights. Really just finding something that you know you'll be able to stick to and that you enjoy. And adequate sleep also is something that affects blood sugar. When we are tired, we tend to crave higher energy foods because your body is in need of energy. So on days where maybe you got less sleep, you'll crave more sugary foods like candies, sugar sweetened beverages, high fat foods, because the body is just really good at telling us what we need. And sometimes it's up to us to choose to listen and to fulfill that need. Next slide. And so I wanted to leave you with this. I understand that we live in a built environment. There are a lot of things that we are not able to change. And this is structurally also in terms of policy and things. But we do have our choice, and that is the most powerful tool that we have. And there are things that we can choose to change or learn about, ask questions about. And so a question that I want to leave you with is, what's a change that you can make today? What's something that you can incorporate today that maybe doesn't feel super big, maybe it doesn't feel complicated, but it can be one change that just kind of creates that shifts direction into a healthier lifestyle. So whether that be drinking water instead of soda, it can be eating a fruit with your breakfast. But what's one choice that you can make today that will lead you to a healthier lifestyle? Next slide. And then here are some diabetes prevention resources that we have in Harris County. So in Harris County Public Health specifically, we have nutrition and physical activity classes. So these are group education classes on how to eat healthier, increase physical activity. These are classes for 2 years old and up. And so if you would like to learn more about classes that we're having in the county, you can email that email on the screen or call that number 713-274-5711. We also have the diabetes prevention program. And so this is a lifestyle change program that is a year-long commitment. So you're with the same group, with the same health coach for a year, which I think is amazing. And this is for adults with pre-diabetes who want to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. And so if you're interested in joining a cohort when they launch, then you can email that email and call the number on the screen. There's also a group called Taking Off Pounds Sensibly, or TOPS. And so again, just if you're looking for that peer support that is more long-term, then this can be a good group. They have a few meetings across the city. And if you're looking to increase your physical activity, then you can go on the Fit Houston website, fithouston.org, to look for a walking group near you. Because as I mentioned, physical activity does decrease the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And so even the 30 minutes of walking will make a huge difference in terms of blood sugar levels. So if you want more information, the links are on the screen and they should be relatively easy to Google as well. And that is all from me. So thank you so much. If you want to connect with more Harris County Public Health resources, then you can follow us on various social medias. And if not, that's the end for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Esmeralda, for this great information. My takeaways for sure is the exchanging of beverages and whatnot to water, non-sweet and non-sweet beverages. And even if we have to sweeten it, just be careful with the amount that we're sweetening with. And of course, for those who just can't drink water, then fizzy it up with the sparkling water and put some lemon in it, and hopefully that helps. Thank you. So now we're going to go on to our Q&A session. Please, again, our online attendees, please post your questions in the Q&A box. The survey link also is currently and continues to be posted in the link in your chat area. So please indulge us and fill out those surveys. That tells us what you think about what you heard today. It gives us room to improve and also what we can do better on. Without further ado, I'm going to be introducing Miss Edith Declan, who is going to take us, who is going to moderate the Q&A session with Miss Esmeralda. Thank you again.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Obo, for that introduction. Thank you, Esmeralda, for that very educative presentation. I really learned a lot. You know, diabetes is broad, but every day we have an opportunity to learn something new. And what I learned today is that it is not always all about what you eat, it's how you eat and when you eat. So thank you so much. So I have a few questions here, and then hopefully we'll get some other questions from the attendees. Now, the first question is, how often should I be tested to measure my blood glucose levels?
Yeah, so I would recommend for everyone to look into having a primary care physician and getting yearly checkups. So typically in those yearly checkups, you can ask for preventative tests to be taken. And so once a year would be my answer. And I would ask for the A1C, the hemoglobin A1C test. And that'll tell you if your levels were normal or high for the past 3 months. So that would be a good place to start.
Oh, thank you very much for that answer. Now, the second question is, how can I keep carbohydrates in my diet while being mindful of my glucose?
Mm-hmm. So one good way in terms of, just living a healthy lifestyle is to use the My Plate method to make sure meals are balanced, not just with carbohydrates, but with healthy fats, protein, and fiber. And all of these nutrients together will help maintain stable blood glucose levels. So definitely you can keep carbohydrates in your diet. I would highly recommend continuing to eat carbohydrate rich foods, but just balancing them out with different food groups to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients that you need.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have a question from one of our attendees, and it says, how do you get your patients to really make a turning point on their overall health?
I would say it's really important to meet patients where they're at and having a patient-centered approach, especially if you are giving recommendations and they're not seeming to adhere to the changes. Asking more questions about what barriers they're facing, if transportation is a barrier, if literacy might be a barrier in terms of a prescription or something. Just probing for more questions. There's this story of that I got told while I was in school, but there is a patient that was told to take insulin every day. And so then his blood sugar wasn't getting any better, A1C levels still high. And so the doctor asked him to show him, like to administer the insulin on himself in that appointment. And what he did was he put the insulin into his coffee and drank it instead of in an injection form. So I think there's a lot of that can happen from that appointment to the time that they're home on their own and they might not have that support. So just taking that time to slow down, check for understanding, and celebrating the small wins, celebrating what changes they are making, could be a great way to also keep patients motivated in this journey.
Wow, that is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, healthcare providers will need to be more specific with the education they provide the patients. Thank you very much for that, Esmeralda. So we're going to our next question, which is, you mentioned the importance of balanced meals. What are some culturally sensitive ways communities can adapt traditional dishes to align with diabetes prevention goals?
Yeah, great question. I'm all for keeping your cultural foods because they're important. They provide more than just nutrition, but they're also that sense of community, that sense of connection to our heritage. And so the first step I would say is to assess your cultural meals. So take a second to think about your cultural meals, or even if you're about to eat one, just kind of assess what aspects are present. Do you have fruits, veggies, grains, protein, dairy? If you're missing one, or if you feel like one is a lot higher than another food group, then are there ways that you can adapt a recipe and add something in, especially adding vegetables? So I'm Hispanic, so in my culture, sometimes we'll have rice, beans, and a tortilla in the same dish. And so that would be a scenario where those are all cultural foods to me, and they make me really happy. So if I want to have all three sources of carbohydrates, I would just make my portions very small of each, and making sure that I'm adding vegetables or lean protein. Or if I don't really want tortillas for that meal, I can get rid of that and just focus on the other grains, to try to keep that balance. So you don't have to completely change it. You don't have to get rid of it or eliminate it, but you can add to it to make it more nutritious.
Well, thank you so much for that. So, it's not just, avoiding everything, but looking for something that culturally aligns with what you. Very good. Thank you so much, for that. I really appreciate that response. Now we have another question from our audience. What would you recommend during the holidays for patients with chronic diseases? The holidays are right around the corner, so I guess that's
Yes, for sure. Um, I think for chronic diseases, I think it's specifically for managing blood glucose. I would recommend if you are able to do a little bit more physical activity, whatever that may look like for you. If you're able to just go on more walks, that's fine. If you're in a wheelchair or sedentary, you can move your arms. You can use water bottles as weights or something like that, because that will help you kind of manage the calories and the energy that you're consuming, as well as managing your blood sugar. So that would be if you want to try all the foods, but you want to manage your blood sugar at the same time and manage your calories. I would recommend increasing physical activity. Now, if your diet is a little bit more specific and you need to be more careful, I would recommend just choosing smaller portions of food. Like if that's a food that your family member only makes on this day, and if you don't get a piece, it will be gone. There's no leftovers. I would just get a small portion that you won't overindulge, but you'll still get to taste it and kind of enjoy it with family. So just portion control. And getting less than you think on your plate. So just getting a little bit of each thing. If you're still hungry, maybe going back and choosing that lean protein, adding more veggies, and maybe not going for seconds of the sweets or the really high fat foods.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that insight because, yeah, the holidays are around the corner, and a lot of people, trust me, it gives people a lot of anxiety figuring out what is healthy versus what is not. And what I understand from what you said is exercise doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. It can be just the little things you can do from the comfort of your home, your work desk, and the rest of that. So thank you so much for that, Esmera. I really appreciate it. All right, so we have one more question from our audience, and it says, for someone who is diabetic, should you limit or stay away from certain fruits that are high in sugar? We know very much that some people would totally avoid some fruits because they consider them high in sugar. So what is your take on that?
Yeah, I think for someone that is diabetic, I think it could be a great option to stay away from high sugary foods. I You should not eliminate all carbohydrates, especially if you're taking insulin. It's really important to manage carbohydrate intake. But if you are faced with a choice between a sugar sweetened beverage, for example, and a non-sugar sweetened beverage, then if you can just make that choice in the moment, you don't have to think about, oh, I'm never going to drink this again. But if you can just make that choice in the moment, I think that it would get easier with time. Same with candy. Candy does not provide anything else except for sugar and calories. So I would really try to stay away from candy. That's easier for me to say because I personally do not like candy. I rather have like a cookie or something. So if you can stay away from candy, candy really doesn't provide other nutrients other than sugar. In terms of sweets and like a piece of cake or a cookie, I would always recommend just to eat a small portion. And this is very dependent on each person, and I would definitely speak to your healthcare provider because when someone is taking insulin, then those things need a match more. But I would say that even sweets in a very small portion, small amount every once in a while, would be okay. It would be okay in terms of long-term management.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that response. We're going to go to the next question.
Definitely not every day. Definitely not
Oh.
every day, but
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for clarifying that. All right. So based on your experience, what dietary changes tends to be the most significant, tends to make the most significant difference for young individuals trying to lower their risk for type 2 diabetes?
yeah, so I would say that this is again very personalized. And the most important first step is to take a risk test or risk assessment to see if you personally have any risk factors for developing type 2 diabetes. And based on that, based on what your highest risk is, will determine what is one behavior that you can change. So if you already have high blood pressure, then maybe your focus can be with managing that blood pressure through lowering sodium intake, or working on increasing physical activity for heart health. So that would kind of determine. I did want to highlight that in some studies that Harvard did, exercise lowered A1C levels by 0.7%, in people of different ethnic groups with diabetes who were taking medication and following various diets. And this change happened without any weight loss. And so this just shows that a habit like incorporating physical activity can lead to prevention and management of blood sugar levels, even without that weight loss.
Wow, thank you very much. That was really insightful. So the next question we have from our audience mirrors our templated question, which is what about patients who do not have access to healthy food options? People who have financial barriers and access, how can we make them successful at being healthy?
Yeah, I think food insecurity is something that we see here in Harris County and Houston, the surrounding areas. I think that if we are making recommendations again to be patient-centered, or client-centered approach to make sure that we are gathering all the information that we need from each patient and seeing what their financial looks like, seeing what their grocery shopping looks like, because we don't want to recommend something that is not feasible or accessible for them. So I would say in terms of healthier eating, the priority should be, do they have enough food to eat? That should be priority. And if they are facing food insecurity, to connect them with resources like the Houston Food Bank and all the pantries that collaborate with the Houston Food Bank across the city. I know that we saw, you know, what happened with SNAP and SNAP funding recently. And I know that families, even with chronic diseases, face challenges with that. So if we can connect them with setting up SNAP applications, we can do that. And again, connecting them with food pantries. Now, if we know that they're fed and maybe their options are just limited, talking about where they go shopping, are there stores that could be more, that have better pricing, that are near to them? Are there ways that they can meal plan to make that budget really stretch? Could they choose canned goods or frozen goods that last longer? Kind of talking about these things, but it is very individualized. And so I think that every recommendation should be made with empathy. And if a patient is being non-compliant, then asking what the barriers are and trying to see if we can partner with them on this health journey that we know is lifelong. It's not just for that time that we're with them.
Wow, thank you so much, Esmeralda. So speaking of meal planning, could you elaborate on how meal planning at the beginning of the week helps improve long-term nutrition and blood sugar management, especially in a very busy, setting where everybody's in and out of the door? So how can meal planning at the beginning of the week help with long-term nutrition?
Yeah, so my belief is that if you've meal planned, then it will make purchasing groceries easier and therefore you'll save money because there will be no random purchases of convenience foods, which are typically more expensive. And it will also decrease your food waste and it'll ensure that you are planning for balanced meals, you're purchasing all ingredients that you need. And you might even schedule time to cook those meals. It'll remove some of the stress or mental barriers because you're not having to figure out what you're going to make that day. And so this leads to lower consumption of convenience foods and meals overall. So it'll just make sure that you're having consistency in mealtime, in meal composition, which will lead to more regulated and steady blood glucose levels.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much, Esmeralda, for that. We have two more questions. We have only 3 minutes to go. We'll try to do our best. Okay. What are some
Okay.
practical strategies to help individuals reduce their intake of added sugars and processed foods, especially those who struggle with cravings? It's real.
It is real, yeah. I would say that our bodies are really smart. Our bodies know what they need. And so I have a few questions that I tend to ask myself when I'm struggling with a craving. First would be, how was your sleep the night before? Because, like I mentioned, when we're sleep deprived, when we're tired, the body craves high sugar and fried food because it's looking for that quick energy. So, if you are sleepy, are you able to take a nap? Which, with our schedules, might not be possible. So then question number two is, are you eating balanced meals like breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And so these balanced meals will help you feel full longer, will help you feel energized, and will help hopefully eliminate some of those cravings. And so, really using my plate as a guide to include all the different food groups into each meal. Sometimes thirst can go along with that. Like if you're thirsty, you might crave a sugar sweetened beverage or something, but water will be the best hydration. And then lastly, if you've all addressed all your physical needs, sometimes a craving is because the food is a fun food or for a sentimental or emotional reason. And so those are okay. We're human, but if you're concerned about these cravings and they're chronic, then I would recommend seeking a professional like a registered dietitian one-on-one to go through some of your concerns about these cravings.
All right, thank you so much, Esmeralda. Our last question, just it's about something you had talked about earlier, which is how HCPH diabetes prevention program or the other diabetes prevention resources you provided can contribute to sustained behavior changes. So I know they offer all these opportunities, but how do they contribute to sustaining the behavior changes, and how can community members get involved?
Yeah, so I would say that what makes these programs different is that they are ongoing. The diabetes prevention program is a year long. So having that peer support is really key when creating a behavior change or a lifestyle modification in a world where we get mixed messaging and it's not always easy to make the healthier choice. And so the diabetes prevention program has actually seen A1Cs drop by 2%, and 71% of individuals that completed the program. And they also saw that 92% of completers increased their physical activity minutes from the start of the program to the end. So really having this long-term program with peer support created those lifestyle changes. And it's really similar with Fit Houston, just having that group where the walking can almost feel like you're doing something fun. Will make it something that you can stick to. And so you can get involved by going on the website or emailing and calling the information that I had on that last screen.
All right, thank you so much for providing us with those answers, Esmeralda. We really appreciate your knowledge and thank you for sharing with us. I'll pass this over to Dr. Owell, please.
Thank you, Ms. Edith. Thank you, Esmeralda, again for that timely word. Again, to everyone who has stayed on with us, and I try to make sure that everyone's questions were answered. And let's say you forgot something, because really there were a lot of jam-packed information, important information, right? That was shared with us by Esmeralda, by Harris County Public Health Esmeralda. Please, 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 the YouTube video will also stream as well, and there is gonna be it's gonna be pretty much live on our social media handle. So please, please feel free to avail yourself of the information. Send it to a husband, send it to a wife, send it to a brother or a sister, or that college kid and whatnot whom you think will benefit from it. To our community health workers, again, we do provide one unaccredited CEs for you. Please do fill out the survey and the evaluation so that you can receive that credit. Credit should come to you within less than 2 weeks for this. Again, like I mentioned, we're streaming live, so thank you all for staying tuned with us. Up next, again, we like to provide so much information. Back in October, actually the last day of October, Halloween Day, we celebrated our 4th annual We Roar Against Breast Cancer. So we had a presentation. We had a time of honoring our survivors, and to top that game in December, we're going to have what you call the Let's Talk About Male Breast Cancer. All right. So we hope that you'll be part of this community of people who want to learn more about it, because we do have a brother, we have a grandpa, we have a husband or whatnot. We know of a male person in our vicinity, even if it's an employee. So please feel free to scan again this QR code and avail yourself of the registration details about it. And we hope to see you. After that, a day after, on the 4th of December, again, during your noon time at lunch, join us to hear about Breathing Easy, what everyone should know about respiratory health. And our speaker will be Dr. Maria Mejia. Again, you can scan the QR code to avail yourself of the pre-registration details. Next, we have in January next year, our maternal and child health education and outreach program that will be taking place at the Steve Rada Community Center at 18650 Clay Road in Houston. We are hopefully going to provide clinical services, including mammogram screening. Parking is going to be free there. Well, there will be no cost lunch for you during that 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. window. So please join us. Share with as much people as you can. The link is again right there. Please share. Go ahead and share the QR code about this wonderful event. And with special thanks also to Harris County's Public Precinct 4 Commissioner Leslie Briones, who availed herself of this center to make this possible. Save the date, April 18th is our annual clinical research and engagement conference, pretty much sharing with you what we are doing on tabletop, sharing with you our communities so that you can know more about how you can serve and how you can even help yourselves. Again, reminding you about our clinical registry program. We have a registry that you can scan this QR code and avail yourself about. The QR code also should tell you more about what we do here and why. Again, our mobile unit is here to serve our Houston and greater community. So we pray that in the nearest future, hopefully sometime in 2026, we will launch that out into the community and serve you all. Again, thank you for connecting with us. Keep connecting with us. We send out bi-monthly MailChimps. So if you haven't If you haven't sent your information, just by clicking on the attendance there, we'll be able to send that out to you if you want to participate in our monthly MailChimps. Thank you so much. And with that, we want to say thank you for joining us. Goodbye and God bless. Over to you, Constellation X.